This is the perfect RIA, in case you didn't know. Bringing you all the strategies to help your business grow. Are you happy? Are you satisfied? Are you hanging on the edge of your seat? Sit back and listen in while you feel the beat, yeah! Another myth bites the dust.
Hello, TPR Nation. This is Amber Kuhn from the Perfect RIA. Thank you for joining me on today's Fallout Friday, where I'll be covering the highlights and action items from this week's episodes. Matt and Micah's episode on Monday was focused on what happens when value adds go wrong. However, they kicked off the episode by talking about your productivity and playing Office. They shared that there's a 20% reduction in productivity for each additional task that you add. And that what differentiates rockstar advisors is that they're focused on specific item while they're in the office, and they're able to get so much more done. They then discussed why they're so passionate about value adds, which is because it's life-changing for your clients, not just for you and your team, and because you're empowering your clients to take action. Micah added that one of the horrible things that can happen in a client's life is when they're disempowered to have any action, any control in their future. He shared that he is constantly empowering his clients to make a difference in their financial future. Matt said that this is a key filter of a value add versus economic commentary. He said a value add provides specific, actionable advice. The guys then went into some mistakes that they've made with their value adds. But keep in mind, as Micah stated, that it's embarrassing, but they're also human, and that this is a journey with a perfect REA. So when there's a fail, it's going to be a public fail. The first mistake is not having clear timelines on value adds. Matt experienced this when he would wait too long to get the value adds started. He'd want to do value adds the first week of the quarter, and then he'd just start rushing them out. So now he and his team agree on what date they'd like the value adds to go out and the latest that it can actually go out. So then there's a range for it. Then in regards to those dates, Micah said that he likes to be consistent. The dates also have to be clear in his calendar, and he needs to be able to see that they're on track. With the L10 meetings in his office, they'll go through a status update once a week. He said they're not in depth, but he just wants to know if it is or if it's not on track, what they're working on, and if there are any roadblocks. Matt recommends that you have a physical calendar to go over everything and to map it out. He also said that you need to look to see when the data will be available for those value adds. Another mistake is sending the wrong letter to the wrong client. You need to think ahead to see where this process could potentially break. Micah shared his experience with this, where they outsourced the mailing and then the wrong letter was sent to the wrong client because there was a shared name. Now, he said when something does go wrong, that the first thing you want to do is fix the problem. Then you can go back, see what happened, and then see how to fix the process. Another couple of mistakes are using terminology that the client doesn't understand. Remember that Matt shared when you're using technical or industry jargon with a client, you might as well be using the word marshmallow. Also, sending something out that doesn't have any personal information. Micah stated that there doesn't need to be a lot of personal information, but you don't want to be sending something out that's generic. Another mistake that Matt shared was not planning ahead for the number of resources that it could take or to respond to a value add. Matt gave an example of a value add that they did for adding trusted contacts. He thought it was going to be simple, but in reality, he had hundreds of clients giving multiple names each, so it was incredibly time consuming afterwards. He said that if you're going to do a value add that prompts action, you need to think about how much action that will prompt and how are you going to handle all of it. Micah shared a mistake of sending out a value add and not telling his team what it was or giving an explanation of what it was. Therefore, the team didn't know the substance. So when a client called with a question, they didn't understand. The way that they corrected this process is that the team now has to run all the value adds on themselves as a client. Then the whole team gets a value add so that everyone understands it and they can see the value and how important it is to have the correct data. While Matt and Micah were sharing their mistakes, they wanted to clarify that they aren't trying to scare people away from value adds. But Matt said you have to have a system for success. The best way to do value adds is to find someone who's doing something you like, with permission, of course. By doing this, then you get the idea of what works. The last mistake they shared was reinventing the wheel. When you see someone who has created a value add and then you rework everything in it because you projected what you thought would be successful. Micah said maybe you should just do what works. Let's get into Monday's action items. Every year needs to be your best year ever, but you need to have a strategy in place to make 2023 your best year so far. Start on your January value adds now. Chat with your team and start reviewing this. And the recommendation is that this should be your 1099 letter. For last action from Monday's episode, if you're interested in learning more about our Perfect RA membership, please reach out to us at lifestyle@theperfectra.com. Moving into our What Works Wednesday episode, Matt was joined by Matthew Doherty, an advisor from Cleveland, Ohio, and he discussed his experience and recommendations for adding an advisor to your firm. Matt Doherty has spent a lot of time training, mentoring, and helping advisors take the next step in their career. He said when he first started, he just wanted to help the next advisor in line. But he thought there had to be a better way to do this than to just throw someone in the mix, because that isn't fair to the client. But he did note that he didn't start transitioning clients right away. He said making this transition in your own office is hard. He stated, most of us are far more important than we believe we are, and we're far less important than we think we are. We think we're so important that we're the only ones who can handle a client relationship. His recommendation is when you make a decision to do something like this, you have to start with your own why. Why do you want to transition relationships? Then use that to set some goals for yourself. What do you need to actually do to achieve what it is? In his office, he hires people who don't have experience because he feels that they'll likely buy into a system and do what he tells them to do. He's created a training program where people can come in and operate as a paraplanner and witness client meetings. He also offers 2 classes every week where he's sharing leadership lessons. He said that he also creates a visual for those coming in that will show where they are and where they should go next. In each step, he identifies the exact responsibilities and expectations and what their income should look like when they get there. He also has monthly one on ones with his team to discuss what's on their mind. Then, once a quarter, he'll pull up their career path to look at where they're at and what they need to do in the next 3 to 6 months to move into that next position. Matt said that you have to be patient when bringing someone on and you have to let them make mistakes because the reality is we learn through our failures and mistakes. However, he said after they get to a certain point, they have to stop coming to him with a problem and they have to start coming with a solution. He said the biggest thing is to get them on meetings as soon as you can. From day one, have them witnessing a meeting that you have so that they can start to get to know the client. This will allow them to gain experience and build rapport with the client. Let's get into action items from Wednesday's episode. If you're in a position where you want to start transitioning clients or build a team, determine what your why is. Then, once you have that, establish a plan of what you actually want to do and be specific on that. If you have people in place, create a visual and roadmap for their future. And lastly, get them in those client meetings. On this week's Worlds to Conquer, Jamie discussed training your team and looking at how does your team know what to do? In the Shalansky office, Jamie shared that most of the times they don't hire someone with a financial background or degree. They hire people with little to no financial experience. However, she said if they do hire someone with experience, it's usually a preference that they have healthcare experience. She said with training, team development, and goal setting, Jamie will look to another industry to see what she can learn from them based on the quality of the content they produce and if there's a lot of terminology that can be transferable, which then they can adapt with their team. She said that she's had a lot of success with this within the medical industry. In their office, they conduct regular trainings on a quarterly basis or as needed. They also have a professional development budget, which each employee can spend on anything that improves their professional development. Jamie mentioned the Ritz-Carlton training for their relationship managers. She said this allows the RMs to assess unspoken desires, and it helps every client feel like they're their only client. Other programs they've done have been on email and business correspondence. She mentioned that they had a business development class which focused on technical and business writing. Jamie then discussed their learning management system, which has everything a new employee should know when they join their team. It includes video content, written content, and quizzes. And then it's also broken down into their other two pods for relationship managers and operations. She did say that financial advisors have a separate program. One of the great things about this training is she said that your team will gain an understanding of your terminology. Jamie said, words are the heartbeat of every relationship that we establish. Jamie then talked about training for note taking and how they utilize notes within their CRM called Infinity. Their CRM gives all the little details that they should know about everyone. Jamie stated, if something isn't documented, then it wasn't done. She said the better your documentation is, the more protection you have and the more empowerment your team has. With note taking, her team follows the SOAP format, which she said is actually the same in the medical field. SOAP stands for subjective. This is where you're listing out all the fields from that conversation. Objective, what is actually happening. An assessment, which is the diagnosis, and then the plan. What actions are you going to take? These notes then get posted inside Infinity so the team can pick this up and know exactly what's happening with the client. Jamie shared a hack for these notes, which is that whenever you're taking a note after having a conversation with or about a client, write the note out as if you're writing to another team member. She said then you'll be more detailed about it than if you were just writing the note for yourself. Let's get into action items from Thursday's episode. Jamie's preference is to hire someone who doesn't have industry experience, or she'll look to those who have healthcare experience. Make sure you're empowering your team by giving them a format to follow so they know what the expectations are. As a reminder, the Shalansky office uses a learning management system. Offer occasional trainings in addition to a professional development budget. That PD budget is for anything that will help your team professionally, and you can look at other business models and industries for inspiration. And lastly, take the time to teach and show your team why it's important to do things a certain way. That wraps up this week's recap. Thank you so much for joining me on today's Follow Up Friday. Be sure to give us 5 stars wherever you're enjoying this podcast and share this or any of our episodes with another advisor who you think might benefit from listening. And until next time, happy planning.
Hold on before we go. Something that you need to know. This isn't tax, legal, or investment advice. That isn't our intent. Information designed to change lives. Financial planning can make you thrive. Start today, don't think twice. Be a better husband, father, mother, and wife. The perfect RIA, the perfect